Adam Schefter has just added a fascinating layer to two of the biggest conversations surrounding the Seattle Seahawks, and while neither topic completely came out of nowhere, hearing them discussed together paints a much clearer picture of where this franchise stands today. One discussion centers around the future ownership of the organization and what the Seahawks have become from a business perspective. The other focuses on what many believe is the biggest football question facing the team as training camp approaches. Both stories are connected by one simple idea. The Seahawks are entering a period that could define the next chapter of the franchise. I'll give you all the details, but first, make sure to hit the like button if you've been a Seahawks fan for over 25 years, and write Hawks Forever in the comments. One of the most interesting points raised was the conversation about the Seahawks' upcoming sale and the incredible valuation attached to the organization. According to the discussion, the Seahawks are set to sell for approximately $9,612 billion, and that immediately sparked a fascinating debate. Adam Schefter questioned whether Seattle's Super Bowl victory ultimately became one of the most valuable wins in all of sports, not simply because it delivered a championship, but because of the financial impact that success may have had on the franchise's long-term value. That idea deserves attention because this is not simply about adding another trophy to the display case. The Seahawks were always expected to be sold eventually, due to the terms established in Paul Allen's will. The timeline for that process has been known, and the discussion points toward August 26th as the official date connected to the sale process. None of that is particularly surprising. What makes the conversation so compelling is asking whether one championship dramatically increased what buyers were ultimately willing to pay years later. The report also mentions that the eventual buyers had to battle for the opportunity to purchase the franchise. It was not simply handed over without competition. There were multiple interested parties, creating a competitive environment that emphasized just how valuable the Seahawks have become. While the upcoming meeting connected to the sale is described as feeling like more of a formality at this stage, reaching that point was anything but simple. According to the discussion, there was real competition to secure ownership of one of the NFL's premier organizations. That naturally raises an intriguing question for Seahawks fans. If the franchise had gone on the market before that championship success, would the final valuation have been the same? Or did winning on the biggest stage permanently elevate the organization's financial worth? Nobody can provide a definitive answer, but it is certainly a conversation worth having when discussing how championships impact franchises beyond the football field. As fascinating as the ownership discussion is, Schefter shifted to what he considers the biggest football question entering the 2026 season, and his answer focused directly on the running back room. According to the discussion, Seattle faces significant change at the position after Kenneth Walker departed in free agency to join Kansas City. At the same time, Zach Charbonnet is recovering from an ACL injury suffered in January, with expectations that he will not be available to begin the regular season. The exact timetable remains uncertain, but the expectation presented is that he could miss at least the opening portion of the year. Those developments naturally create uncertainty, especially from a national perspective. Losing a starting running back while another key player continues recovering from a serious injury would make many analysts wonder how the offense plans to respond. Yet the discussion presents a very different perspective. Instead of viewing the running back room as a weakness, the belief expressed is that Seattle may actually be better positioned than many outsiders realize. Much of that optimism centers on first-round selection Jadarian Price. Rather than seeing him simply as another rookie entering the league, the conversation suggests he could quickly become one of the most important pieces of Seattle's offense. His time at Notre Dame is highlighted as evidence that he possesses significant talent while also arriving in the NFL without the excessive workload that many college running backs accumulate before reaching the professional level. That combination is viewed as a major positive entering his first season. The confidence in Price goes even further when Adam Schefter shared a particularly revealing story from before the draft. According to Schefter, one NFL coach told him that Jadarian Price was actually the best pure running back in the entire draft class. That statement stands out because it separates Price from simple statistical comparisons. While others may focus exclusively on production totals, the evaluation from inside NFL circles emphasized his natural ability as a runner above everything else. The discussion explains that statistics alone fail to capture the full picture. Price may not have received overwhelming volume in college, but the argument is that he maximized nearly every opportunity he received. Rather than seeing limited carries as a concern, the perspective presented is that fewer touches could actually benefit him as he begins his NFL career, leaving more mileage available for the future. Coaches, scouts, executives, and front office personnel are described as holding him in extremely high regard, believing his overall skill set projects very well at the professional level. Another point emphasized is Price's complete package as a running back. Beyond his running ability, he is praised for his vision, breakaway speed, and the hands he displayed during off-season work, including organized team activities and minicamp. The belief presented is that those qualities make him an ideal fit for what Seattle wants from the position moving forward. The optimism does not stop with Price. George Holani also receives strong support throughout the discussion. While his statistical production may not immediately impress those who only glance at box scores, the argument is that watching his actual performances tells a different story. His role may have been limited, but when called upon, he consistently contributed in meaningful situations. His vision, receiving ability, willingness to perform difficult assignments, and playoff contributions are all mentioned as reasons for confidence heading into the new season. Emmanuel Wilson is another player receiving praise. His physical running style, strength at the point of attack, and underrated speed are highlighted as qualities that could make him an important contributor. The discussion also references positive impressions from off-season practices along with previous film study, reinforcing the belief that Seattle has more depth at the position than many national analysts are giving them credit for. Taken together, the picture becomes much more interesting than simply saying the Seahawks lost one running back and another is injured. Instead, the discussion argues that Seattle may already have several players capable of stepping into meaningful roles, with Jadarian Price potentially becoming the centerpiece of that transition. Whether that confidence proves justified will only be answered once training camp begins and the regular season unfolds, but it is clear that there are very different opinions regarding this position group. With so much attention focused on the ownership transition and the evolving running back room, one question now stands above the rest. Are national analysts placing too much doubt on Seattle's backfield? Or do you believe this remains the Seahawks' biggest concern entering the 2026 season? What do you think? Do you agree with Adam Schefter's assessment? Or is there another issue that deserves even more attention from Seahawks fans? Another detail that makes this discussion even more interesting is that the confidence surrounding Jadarian Price is not being built on hype alone. The comments shared by Adam Schefter point toward evaluations coming directly from people inside NFL organizations. According to Schefter, one coach believed Price was the best pure running back available in the draft, despite playing alongside another highly recognized teammate in college. That kind of endorsement naturally changes the conversation because it suggests NFL decision-makers may have viewed his talent differently than the general public did. The explanation also emphasizes why relying strictly on college statistics can be misleading. Some players build massive production because they receive an enormous number of carries, while others maximize fewer opportunities. The argument presented here is that Price belongs to the second category. Rather than seeing limited touches as a weakness, The belief is that he consistently made the most of every opportunity, showing explosive ability whenever the football was in his hands. That has created considerable excitement about what he could become once he begins receiving a larger workload at the professional level. There is also an important point made about his overall skill set. The discussion highlights his vision as a runner, his ability to create explosive plays with breakaway speed, and the receiving ability he has already displayed during off-season work. Those traits are viewed as evidence that he can contribute in multiple ways instead of being limited to traditional rushing situations. If those early impressions continue during training camp, Seattle could find itself with a rookie capable of making an immediate impact despite all the outside questions surrounding the position group. That optimism naturally extends to the rest of the running back room as well. George Holani is presented as a player whose contributions are often overlooked because many people judge his season strictly by the numbers. The discussion argues that anyone who actually watched his opportunities saw much more than the stat sheet suggests. His vision with the football, his ability as a receiver coming out of the backfield, and his willingness to handle difficult assignments all contribute to the belief that he can continue playing an important supporting role whenever his number is called. The same confidence appears when talking about Emmanuel Wilson. His physical running style, strength through contact, and underrated speed are all mentioned as reasons for optimism. Positive impressions from off-season practices, mandatory minicamp, and previous game film have reinforced the belief that Seattle possesses more depth than many outside observers are acknowledging. While national analysts may focus primarily on Kenneth Walker's departure and Zach Charbonnet's recovery timeline, the discussion suggests that the players remaining on the roster deserve significantly more confidence than they are currently receiving. As training camp approaches, this becomes one of the most fascinating storylines to follow. The spotlight will naturally fall on the running back position because expectations and opinions vary so dramatically. Some believe it represents Seattle's biggest weakness entering the season. Others see it as a position that could surprise the entire league if the young talent develops as expected. Training camp practices and preseason performances will begin providing those answers, but for now, the debate remains completely open. Before wrapping up, another update mentioned during the discussion involves Aaron Darnold. Based on comments shared from the Pat McAfee Show and information connected to Peter Schrager, the expectation is that if Darnold returns, it will not be as a mid-season addition. The belief presented is that he would either commit to playing the entire season or remain away altogether. At the moment, the indications discussed point more toward a full return than anything else, although contract matters would still need to be resolved before that becomes official. Even with that possibility, the discussion does not suggest immediate panic from Seattle's perspective. Instead, the recommendation is to wait and evaluate how everything develops before drawing major conclusions. Speculation can dominate headlines throughout the off-season, but real answers only begin arriving once players report, practices start, and games are finally played. That measured approach reflects the overall tone of the conversation, balancing intriguing reports with the understanding that several important questions will ultimately be answered on the field rather than through off-season discussion. Taken together, these updates create a compelling snapshot of where the Seahawks stand today. On one side, the franchise is approaching a historic ownership transition, accompanied by one of the highest valuations in professional sports, prompting questions about just how much championship success influenced the organization's long-term worth. On the other, the football side of the conversation revolves around whether Seattle's revamped running back room can exceed expectations despite major changes heading into the 2026 season. Those two storylines may seem unrelated at first glance, but both represent pivotal moments that could shape the franchise's immediate future in very different ways. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to stay up to date with every important Seahawks development as soon as it happens, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like on this video, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest news. And before you go, click the video that's on your screen right now, because that's where you'll find even more Seahawks coverage. If you want the latest Seahawks updates first, this is the place to be.